So last week we had a blunder in the recording. So it seems that I had muted myself for an extended time. So I want to repeat some of that, insha'Allah ta'ala. We'll back up and say some of what we did say and then continue from there. So we're going to start here at 560, footnote 560. But I need to just back up a little to give context to the sentence. So, and this is repeating some of what we said last week. So, the author says, the literalists' argument, yani their argument for why, in their claim, ta'wil is invalid. Ta'wil meaning giving an alternative interpretation to the verse or hadith, not explaining the religious text by its literal and apparent meaning. For them, this is invalid and it's blasphemy, according to them. It's haram and it's blasphemy because they say at-ta'wilu ta'til. They say ta'wil is atheism. That's blasphemy then, according to them. So what's their argument? Their argument is to say ta'wil is a non-literal inference. Yani, here, they started by defining it. That's correct. They say, so those who make ta'wil, they are the misguided ones. Not the literalists. They mean not us. Not the ones who take the verses as they are. That's how they would say. They would say, we take it as it is. They take it by other than as it is. They are the misguided ones, not us. They say, because Allah says, وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ. No one knows its ta'wil except Allah. They're saying, this is something that only God knows. So how can you do it? How could you do it and be correct? There's no way. They say, how could you say then that istawa means subjugated instead of rose over or sat? This is ta'wil. Didn't the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam say, إِذَا رَأَيْتُمُ الَّذِينَ يَتَّبِعُونَ الْمُتَشَابِهِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ حَذَّرَكُمُ اللَّهُ فَاحْذُرُوهُمْ. When you see those who follow the ambiguous, let me take the word verses out. When you see those who follow the ambiguous, I could even take the word follow, I could exchange that for pursue. That's the one I want. When you see those who pursue the ambiguous, then they are those about whom Allah warned you. So beware of them. So that's what they say. They say, the well-rooted scholars do not do that. الَّذِينَ الرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ الرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ. They are mentioned in the verse. The well-rooted scholars, they say, they don't do that. Only Allah knows. They say, thus, we take the verses as they are, which means by their apparent and literal meanings, which, yani, they say, ala zahiriha, as they appear. And they say, ala haqiqatiha, as they really are. This means literally. Ala haqiqatiha means literally. We take them literally. That's what they say. They say, we don't make ta'wil. And they say, and who are those people? The Ash'aris and the Maturidis. So the answer is that according to a mutawatir second recitation of this same verse, there is not a stop at the name of Allah. Yani here, this recitation they recite, وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ. Stop. The answer is that according to another recitation, there's no stop here. One continues until stopping at the term al-ilm. the knowledge. And according to this, the meaning is no one knows its ta'wil but Allah and those deeply rooted in the knowledge or well rooted in the knowledge. وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ. So that means those who are well rooted in the knowledge do know the interpretation of these verses. This recitation proves that. So then from there we say to them, so how do you interpret this recitation? This recitation, they will likely deny it. They will likely deny it. That's going to be their likely response to this recitation. Here's the footnote that goes there. Some of those misguided people may deny this recitation. That's their likely response because they have nothing else to say here. Otherwise, he's going to be silent. Yani, either he knows about this recitation or not. The recitation where you don't stop at the name of Allah. And therefore, according to the recitation we're addressing now, no one knows the ta'wil but Allah and those who are well rooted in the knowledge. This recitation, they would know it or not. So whether they know it or they don't know it, they will likely deny it. Maybe a dumb Wahhabi will say, I don't know this recitation. But even more likely than that is for that same dumb Wahhabi to say, there's no recitation like that, and he has no idea, because they don't fear Allah. Tell him a hadith he never heard, he will say, don't bring these weak narrations. That's how confident they are, full of hot air. But what if he does know the recitation? He still might deny it because they're liars. He's testing you to see if you know it. If you don't know it, well, you are the one who brought it up, according to the scenario we're producing here. You are the one who brought it up. So, you know it then. But he would deny it while he knows it. Or maybe he hopes you are not firm so that he can talk you out of it, make you doubt about what you think you know. Or else he's just going to shut his mouth. So some of those misguided people may deny this recitation. Just tell them to refer to the scholars and to the books of recitation and see what's there. If they do that, they will find it mentioned that there is more than one recitation for this verse. Okay, all of this is very clear for you now, I think. We just are recapping to build up to where the recording cut off prematurely. You will find these interpretations for this verse very clear in more than one book of interpretation. Yani, the book of interpretation the tafsir book, will address the ayah according to one recitation. The most famous one is the one that the Wahhabi would prefer to recite. وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ. Stop. That's the most famous recitation. So you wouldn't be surprised if you look into a book of tafsir and you found that this recitation was explained first. And then the interpreter will explain, will say, but there's another recitation. وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ. Then he will explain. So just tell them to refer to the scholars and to the books of recitation and see what is there. You will find these interpretations of this verse very clear in more than one book of interpretation. Among them, in particular, is the book of Al-Fayruz Abadi. Or you can say his name as Al-Fayruz Abadi, Al-Fayruz Abadi, or Al-Fayruz Abadi. In his book, Basairu Dhawi Tamyiz, look under the chapter called Al-Basira fi Ta'wil, what makes one see, yani what gives insight into, so it means what makes one understand the issue of ta'wil. So the title of the book, Basairu Dhawit Tamyiz, insights, the insights of those who can distinguish, those who can discern. So it has chapters. Al-Basiratu fi Ta'wil, insight into Ta'wil. And I believe I translated that. Let me see here. I translated that in the footnote of How to Debate the So-Called Salafiyya. Al-Fayruz Abadi in his book Basairu Dhawit Tamyiz, Volume 2, page 291. I'll just read the English. He says, insight into Ta'wil. Ta'wil. It came in the Qur'an with 5 meanings. The word Ta'wil. The first is with the meaning of mulk, dominion or reign, such as وَابْتِغَاءَ تَأْوِيلِهِ, and seeking his ta'wil, i.e. the reign of Muhammad. And وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ, no one knows his ta'wil except Allah, i.e. the end of his reign, when his followers will go extinct. When will Muhammad's followers go extinct? And they will not die until the end of the world, by the way. The Jews claim to have determined that by the sentential calculation. The second is with the meaning of aqidah. Aqibah. The second is with the meaning of aqibah, outcome or fate, and the predestination of the good and the evil. And the predestination of the good and evil that is promised to the creation. And he cites the ayah. هل ينظرون إلا تأويله يوم يأتي تأويله. Are they awaiting anything but its ta'wil? Are they awaiting anything but its ta'wil, i.e. its manifestation? The outcome? And he cites another ayah. وَأَحْسَنَ تَأْوِيلًا. And that is better as a ta'wil, whatever that ayah is referring to, meaning a better fate, a better outcome. And also, what did Al-Khadir say to Musa? ذَلِكَ تَأْوِيلُ مَا لَمْ تَسْطِعْ. That is the ta'wil of what you are unable, to be patient with, i.e. its outcome, the explanation. This is the explanation. The third is with the meaning of the dream interpretation. وَعَلَّمْتَنِي مِن تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ. That's what Yusuf was saying. Oh Allah, you taught me the ta'wil of the hadiths. The hadiths here means the dreams. The ta'wil of the dreams, interpretation of the dreams. The fourth is with the meaning of verification and interpretation. Like when Yusuf said, هَذَا تَأْوِيلُ رُؤْيَاي. This is the ta'wil of my dream, meaning its verification and interpretation. And the fifth is with the meaning of the types and colors of foods. Also from the statement of Yusuf. لا يأتيكما طعام ترزقانه إلا نبأتكما بتأويله. There shall not come to you any food by which you are sustained, except that I shall inform you of its ta'wil, its colors and types. Okay, so what's the point here? Point here is that ta'wil has numerous meanings. So there's more than one recitation of that ayah, the 7th ayah of the 3rd surah. When you stop at one way, then ta'wil has one meaning. And when you stop at another spot, then ta'wil has a different meaning. You will find these interpretations of this verse very clear in more than one book of interpretation. Among them in particular is the book of Al-Fayruz Abadi, Basairu Dhawit Tamyiz, Look under the chapter called Al-Basiratu fi Ta'wil, and you will see. So we just took a look there. As-Suyuti copied Ibn al-Jazari's confirmation of these two recitations in the chapter dedicated to Al-Waqf wal-Ibtida'. So there's two things being addressed here in this footnote. One is the fact that there's more than one recitation for the ayah or recital. The other is that there's more than one interpretation for the word ta'wil. Probably a nice book to check out also would be the book of Al-Raghib al-Asbahani. Remind me if I don't get around to it. We can maybe take a look at his book before we close out. So, talking about the recitations, As-Suyuti copied Ibn al-Jazari's confirmation of these two recitations in the chapter dedicated to Al-Waqf wal-Ibtida' in Suyuti's book. Suyuti's book, Al-Itqan, he has a chapter called Al-Waqf wal-Ibtida', stopping and starting when reciting the Qur'an. What did Ibn al-Jazari say as cited by As-Suyuti? He said, and Ibn al-Jazari is the sheikh of the reciters. He's the biggest reciter, the scholar, that is. Not just someone who can recite Qur'an, he's a scholar of recitations and tajweed. He is the imam of the later reciters. The scholars who recite the Qur'an and know the rules of tajweed on a scholarly level, they are called al-Qurra, the reciters. And they were also at the time of the Prophet called al-Qurra. And those Qurra, the reciters, were memorizers of the Qur'an also. So what did Ibn al-Jazari say? He said it could be that the waqf is complete according to an interpretation or a syntax, the sentence structure, or a recitation, and incomplete according to another. And then he gives an example. Like, وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ. No one knows its ta'wil except Allah. So now we are where the recording stopped. Ibn al-Jazari says, it is complete if what comes after it starts a new sentence. Stopping here is complete if the next, if when you start after that, that's a complete sentence itself. A new sentence rather. A new sentence. وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ يَقُولُونَ آمَنَّا بِهِ. And those who are firm in the knowledge say, we believe in it. And it is not complete if what comes after it is connected by conjunction. Meaning, if you say, وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ. No one knows its ta'wil except Allah, and the word and is the conjunction. And those who are firm in the knowledge, period. Then it stops. So, what's our point here? Our point here is to substantiate the recitation that the Wahhabi would likely deny if he were able to. He hopes you are ignorant or weak enough for him to deny it, but he cannot deny it. And all of these words are from Sheikh Samir here. This is a lesson that Sheikh Samir gave us. This is from the first lesson when I was first introduced even to the details of this topic here, explaining this ayah and its different recitations. Sheikh Samir gave us a lesson here that I never heard from anyone. I don't even know where he got the information from. What was he reading from? He was teaching us as-siratul mustaqim, but these details are not there. He said, rahimahullah, Sheikh Samir said, some of them do not know about this recitation. And he said this when someone asked him. So he answered, some of them do not know about this recitation, and some of them do, and some of them do not recognize this recitation. They don't acknowledge it. And some of them know, because amongst the Wahhabis are those who are not ignorant, not completely, A lot of Wahhabis are just morons and minions, but some of them, they have knowledge, but they are misguided people. Some who are stubborn and know that if they submit, that they will be defeated, they might say that there is no such recitation. Tell them not to speak without knowledge, not to say it does not exist just because they do not know about it. That's what a Wahhabi would do. Like if a Wahhabi never heard the hadith كان الله ولم يكن شيء غيره. Don't be surprised if he doesn't know this hadith. Many of them don't because their teachers would never teach it to them. So then you tell him, no, all what you're saying is wrong. Don't you know that the Prophet said Allah was and there wasn't anything else? He would say, don't bring those weak hadiths. Then you tell him, this hadith is narrated by Al-Bukhari. It's authentic. Then he won't know what to say. Some of them may say that it is not permissible to stop at the term al-ilm, the knowledge. Subhanallah. Yeah, you said that happened to you. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Those people are a plague on the Muslims. Ibn Taymiyyah has a lot of sin on him for what he has subjected the nation of Muhammad to. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. They say, so some of them say it's not permissible to stop at the term al-ilm. They are saying, no, that's not a valid recitation. You can't say, وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ. No one knows its ta'wil but Allah and those who are firm in the ilm. Some of them say it's not permissible to stop at the term al-ilm, the knowledge. They say if you stop there, the next sentence will start with a verb without an apparent subject. Yani the next, if you say وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ, stop, then the next word is يَقُولُونَ. They say. So some of those Wahhabis would say, if you stop the way you claim, then the next sentence starts with a verb without an apparent subject. And this is weak in the Arabic language. And the Qur'an cannot contain anything weak. This is not true. We tell them that this is a confirmed recitation. So it is as if you are confirming that the Qur'an has a weak style. And this is impossible because this is a confirmed recitation. So you are saying that something that's in a confirmed recitation is weak. You just didn't know it's confirmed. Well, you knew, but you are a troll. And I would say to him, what do you say about يَقُولُونَ أَإِنَّا لَمَرْدُودُونَ فِي الْحَافِرَةِ? I would ask him, what do you say about this ayah? يَقُولُونَ أَإِنَّا لَمَرْدُودُونَ فِي الْحَافِرَةِ? How do you explain that? That's how you start the ayah. يَقُولُونَ. You're saying you can't stop at وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ because the next word is يَقُولُونَ آمَنَّا بِهِ. It's not true. يَقُولُونَ goes back to الرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ. It's obvious. And they would say this is weak in the Arabic language starting like that, calling your bluff. We tell them that this is a confirmed recitation. So it is as if you are confirming that the Qur'an has a weak style. Your not knowing that it's confirmed doesn't mean that it is not confirmed. It is confirmed despite that you don't know. We asked them, who said this among the scholars of the Arabic language? Who said what you are saying? Also, we tell them that if this were true, then the blasphemers at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who were very, very eloquent in the Arabic language, would have confronted the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and told him that this is not revealed as you claim because this is weak. How could this be a revelation when it's weak? They would have detected the weakness. And this did not happen. As Suyuti copies from Ibn al-Jazari, the last of the most elite scholars of Qur'an recitation, yani, the last doesn't mean, he is the very, very last. He is the Shaykh of the Qur'an, the later ones. Shaykh of the later reciters. And he said in his book An-Nashr, in reference to the conditions for the correct recitations of the Qur'an, and specifically here, in reference to the Arabic of those recitations, meaning, we are right now trying to address the Wahhabis' attempt to debunk a confirmed recitation by claiming that the Arabic is weak, if you recite it that way. Saying, how could this be a correct recitation when the Arabic is weak in this way? So, Ibn al-Jazari, he discussed the conditions for the correct valid recitations. How did the scholars verify the recitations concerning the Arabic of those recitations? Yani, There's different conditions for the recitation to be confirmed. Amongst them is that it's correct Arabic. Of course, can't be wrong Arabic and it's a valid recitation. So we have some talk here. Would there be wrong or weak Arabic in a correct recitation of the Quran? This, what did Ibn al-Jazari say? Ibn al-Jazari said, we meant, yani discussing those conditions, we meant by those conditions that it would be according to an aspect of the various aspects of Arabic syntax. Yani, a recitation of the Quran, one of its conditions is that it has correct Arabic in one way or another. It has valid, correct Arabic in one way or another. It would be valid according to an aspect of the various aspects of Arabic syntax, nahu. Whether it were most eloquent or just eloquent, because some of the Quran is more eloquent than other parts of the Quran. All of the Quran is at the level of eloquence, and some of it is at the peak of eloquence, more eloquent than other parts. But none of it is weak, and none of it is corny. So the recitation would be according to an aspect amongst the various aspects of the Arabic language, whether most eloquent or just eloquent, or whether agreed upon or differed upon, differed about, if we have a confirmed recitation, the way the wording is in that recitation, some scholars of Arabic language outside of the Quran would have claimed that this is weak Arabic. They don't agree that you can say the Arabic in this way, that Arabic goes like that. So some scholars approved of that Arabic would go like that, and some scholars disputed that Arabic would go like that. Even this, it's possible that there's a correct recitation of the Quran that if you looked into the talk of the grammarians and the scholars of the language outside of the Quran, not that they looked at in the Quran and then disputed about it, but that there's something in the Arabic language that they differed about whether that's correct Arabic, and then we found the likes of that according to a recitation. Their differing about that does not prevent the recitation from being a valid recitation. In a way that such a difference is not harmful, that is. As long as the recitation were among what was common knowledge and widespread, and narrated by the Imams with an authentic chain of narration. For that is the greatest basis and the strongest integral, that the transmission is sound. The transmission being a sound transmission from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is stronger than the grammarians debating about some aspect of Arabic, whether it's correct Arabic or not. How many recitations were rejected by some grammarians, or many of them, while their rejection was given no consideration here? Ibn al-Jazari is saying there are recitations of the Quran that some scholars would have heard them and then said, this can't be Quran, this is weak in Arabic language. And the scholars of Quran recitation, they would have rejected the objection of the grammarian because the transmission is verified. The transmission from the Prophet would be verified about that recitation of the Quran, alayhi salatu wassalam. So then that in itself is enough to debunk the objection of the grammarian. As Subki also copied that Ad-Dani said, in reference to the various recitations of the Quran, the Imams of recitation do not at all work according to what is most prevalent in the language or most comparative in Arabic. Rather, they work according to what is most confirmed in according to what is most confirmed in tradition, athar, and most authentic in transmission. If the narration is confirmed, it would not be rejected for what is standard Arabic or prevalent language, because the recitation is a followed sunnah. Its acceptance The acceptance of such a recitation and resorting to that recitation is mandatory. This recitation that we are arguing for is the recitation of Mujahid, the student of Ibn Abbas. This does not mean that his recitation was, this does not mean that this recitation was innovated by Mujahid. No. He was among the most famous of those who narrated this recitation, yani who recited according to this recitation, and others learned it from him. Meaning the recitations of the Qur'an are named after scholars. Why? Because those scholars were the hub, they were the source. Meaning, for example, we recite the recitation of Hafs. Hafs from Asim. Does this mean that Hafs innovated this recitation of the Quran? No. Hafs was the scholar that people went to get the recitation. So it was called the recitation of Hafs. The recitation in the topic we are discussing, the recitation that we are arguing for and substantiating is called the recitation of Mujahid. Mujahid, the student of Ibn Abbas. He was among the most famous of those who narrated this recitation. So, to distinguish it from other recitations, they gave it a name, the recitation of Mujahid. As-Suyuti said, An-Nakha'i, he's a tabi'i, said, they used to not like to say the recitation of Abdullah, the recitation of Salim, the recitation of Ubay, the recitation of Zayd. Instead, it is said, so-and-so used to recite this way, and so-and-so used to recite this way. That's what An-Nakha'i said. But An-Nawawi said, what is correct is that is not disliked. Yani, it's okay. You can say the recitation of Fulan, the recitation of Fulan. There's no harm. Any question here? You say, where do we say that about Hafs? I don't understand the question. The recitation we recite is the recitation of Hafs. Hafs an Asim, which is the most famous widespread recitation of the Quran. Like 90% of the Muslim world recites the recitation of Hafs. 90% or more. Clarify your question for me if you need to. Next footnote goes here. According to this, yani according to the recitation we are arguing for, the meaning, yani that recitation is وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ. The meaning is no one knows its ta'wil but Allah and those deeply rooted in the knowledge. In this case, يَقُولُونَ, they say, will be the beginning of the next sentence. And there's nothing wrong with starting that way. Therefore, the interpretation of the Mushabbiha, the anthropomorphists, their interpretation of the first recitation is invalid. This second recitation contradicts their interpretation of that first recitation. So I hope the words are not confusing for you. So they take a recitation. وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ. Period. They explain it to me, no one knows the interpretation except Allah. And then they continue from there. وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ يَقُولُونَ آمَنَّا بِهِ. And those who are firm in the knowledge say, we believe in it. We say to them, your interpretation is false. Your interpretation is false because your interpretation contradicts the other recitation. وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ. No one knows its ta'wil but Allah and those who are deeply rooted in the knowledge. يَقُولُونَ آمَنَّا بِهِ. They say, we believe in it. So your interpretation of the first recitation is invalid. It is debunked by the other recitation. Because you interpret the first recitation to mean no one knows the ta'wil but Allah, but you explain ta'wil in the wrong way. How do you explain the recitation that says no one knows the ta'wil but Allah and those who are firm in the knowledge? So here he will lie, or he will go silent, or he will speak without knowledge. He will deny something without knowledge, or he will know it and then lie, or he will shut his mouth. This second recitation contradicts their interpretation of that first recitation. Here's a footnote. As-Suyuti narrates from Abu Ja'far an-Nahas that he said, if both recitations are confirmed, then the safety, according to the people of the religion, is not to say this recitation is better, because both of them are from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And don't forget, recitation does not mean version. The Christians have different versions of the Bible. That means they took a copy and then someone at some point changed what's in there. Then they got another version, and then they kept changing and changing and changing things, and it came up with version after version after version. We are talking about one Qur'an that can be recited in various ways, confirming all of those recitations from the Prophet himself, alayhi salatu wassalam. This is not the same thing that happened to the Christians. So An-Nahas said, if both recitations are confirmed, then the safety, according to the people of the religion, is not to say this recitation is better, because both of them are from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yes, and we're not saying one of these recitations is better than the other. We are saying they are both recitations. They cannot contradict each other. He also lists several benefits of the Qur'an having various recitations. Among them is to amplify its miraculousness by its amazing summarization. The varying recitations of one verse would make that verse as if it were two verses, like the one we are discussing. You recite the verse in one way, stopping at one point, and then explaining it in one way. Then you recite the very same words without changing anything but where you stop, and then has another interpretation. So it's like it's two verses. This is amazing. And that's in different spots of the Qur'an. All of that from an illiterate man. Prophet Muhammad's illiteracy is a proof for him of his prophethood. Where being illiterate is a dispraise for anyone else, being illiterate is a praise for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he came with a book that defeated all of the literate and all of the educated people. What if, for example, someone never did carpentry before, and then the very first time he did carpentry, he did something better than any experienced carpenter ever did ever. You'd say, what? How's this? That's how the Qur'an is, from a man who does not read or write. So among the benefits of the Qur'an having various recitations is to amplify its miraculousness by its amazing summarization. The varying recitations of one verse would make that verse as if it were two verses. And had the meanings of each expression had its own verse assigned to it, it is obvious how long the Qur'an would have been. Meaning, look how we are now addressing this one verse. You recite it like this, it means like this. Recite it like this, it means another way. If each meaning had its own verse, it would make the Qur'an very, very, very long. But it was revealed to the Prophet in a way that you can recite it in different ways, and then gives one verse multiple ways of explanation. An example of this is the saying of Allah, wa arjulakum, and your feet. Yani, wash your feet. According to the recitation in which it is in the accusative case, that means you say arjulakum, la, this sound, la. It refers to washing the feet. And according to the recitation in which it is in the genitive case, wa arjulikum, li, just changing the syntax, then it refers to wiping over the khuf. Now it means wipe your foot gear. وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ, wash your feet. وَأَرْجُلِكُمْ, wipe the foot gear. He said that another benefit of the Qur'an having various recitations is that one recitation would clarify the meaning of another recitation in a way that had it not been for that second recitation, then perhaps the intended meaning of the other would not have been known. Now, I'm putting all of this in red here. You know, red means my own words. This is not really my own words. The only reason why I'm putting it in red is because it's my summarization. I summarized this. I didn't say it. I condensed it so that it's brief. So I put it in red. You were saying when you asked about where do we say that about Hafs, you were looking along, looking to read along. You know, I added that. I was just saying that in the course of giving the lesson. The recitation of Hafs is not mentioned in the footnote. Question: did Minshawi or Abdul Basit also follow one type of recitation, Hafs? They usually, from the recordings that I heard of Minshawi and Abdul Basit, they usually recited Hafs. But both of them have recordings of reciting in more than one way. Minshawi has such a beautiful recording. I have it on my YouTube of one ayah. He recites the ayah, a piece of it. And then he repeats himself. He recites according to another recitation. Then he repeats himself according to another recitation. Then he repeats himself according to another recitation. And you hear the crowd in the back saying, Allah, Allah. And his voice is so nice too. Minshawi and Abdul Basit, both of those are Egyptian reciters, and I believe they both passed away. I'm pretty sure they both passed away. I'm not sure when's their time. I think they are like from the 80s. Their recordings are probably from the 80s. I'm guesstimating there. So that footnote, we said all of that because the recitation that we are arguing for contradicts their interpretation of the other recitation. They recited the ayah one way, interpreted it in a way that contradicts another recitation. So their interpretation is wrong. Both recitations are fine. Their interpretation is wrong. They misinterpret one recitation and deny the other one. While both recitations are fine, and their interpretation of the one that they acknowledge is wrong. Minshawi, Minshawi, that's how you spell it. And that's different from another one. His name is, I think, Mishari or something like that. It's Minshawi. Those recitations, those recordings of Minshawi and Abdul Basit, unless someone remasters them, you can hear it's like older. Now, when you listen to reciters, their recordings very crystal clear because the technology has improved. All right, let's do one more footnote here. This footnote goes here. The sentence says, in this issue, the dispraised people against whom there is warning are, the ayah says, فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ زَيْغٌ فَيَتَّبِعُونَ مَا تَشَابَهَ مِنْهُ ابْتِغَاءَ الْفِتْنَةِ وَابْتِغَاءَ تَأْوِيلِهِ. As for those in whose hearts is perversion or deviation, they pursue what is ambiguous therein, seeking sedition and seeking its ta'wil. So there's warning here in the Qur'an from some people. Here's a footnote. Ad-Darimi narrated in his Musnad from the route of Sulaiman ibn Yasar that a man named Sabir came to Medina and started asking about the ambiguous verses of the Qur'an. Omar summoned him, yani he was subpoenaed. And he had prepared some sticks from the palm tree for him. He said, Omar said to him, "Who are you?" He said, "I am Abdullah Sabir." So, no, it doesn't say right here what I'm going to say to you. In some reports, Omar responded to him, "I am Abdullah Omar." Then Omar commenced beating him with those sticks until his head bled. He whipped him. In another narration, he beat him severely and then he stopped. After a while, he beat him again and then he stopped. After a while, he beat him again and then he stopped. So the man said, "If you want to kill me in a better way. Yani, kill me in an easier way than this." Then Omar released him. And it was said that he said to Omar, "If you want to kill me in an easier way than this. But if you want to teach me a lesson, then I learned my lesson." Now he knew why Omar was beating him. So then Omar released him. And he let him go back to his land. And he sent a message to Abu Musa al-Ash'ari that none of the Muslims should sit with this man. And this man, he wasn't even explaining the ayat. He was just asking about them only. Why did Omar do that? Because he knew that what this person was doing might lead some people to misguidance. Asking about ambiguous verses that people don't know how to explain. Because the people of misguidance are the people who gather these verses and misinterpret them. So this is what he had done. He collected all these mutashabih verses and started asking about them one by one. As if Omar took heed to what's in the ayah about the warning from those who pursue the ambiguous verses. So he punished this man. This person was asking everyone about those verses, even though he wasn't explaining them. So Omar wanted to put an end to that to protect the Muslims. It was also said that Omar exiled him and ordered him not to mingle with anyone. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Any question?
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
The question I got is about the kuf. Where could I find that? Boy, the conditions of the kuf. The conditions of the kuf. What makes it a kuf?
You'll find that in the books of fiqh. Yeah. So, for example, in Shafi'i school, when you learn some book of fiqh that has enough details, then they're going to tell you. Like Abu Shuja', for example. He has some of the conditions, most of them. Most of the conditions of the khuf are in Abu Shuja', or books bigger than that. Then they're going to tell you, according to the Shafi'i school, needs to be water resistant, needs to be durable so that you can walk around in them without them tearing. Needs to be pure, not just like not made from dog skin or pig skin, etc.
Is any of them explained in any of the books of Sheikh Abdullah Rahimahullah?
And probably in the Bughya, his explanation of the summary,
I'll look at that then.
he would have the conditions of the khuf in there, most likely.
All right. Barakallah feek.
Ameen wa fikum. Wa subhanallahi wa bihamdihi.